Okay, hello Graham. This is Tea at 3. I am Faith Schmidt. I'm joined here by Graham Kerr. I am an anxious 26-year-old woman in the middle of a quarter-life crisis, just going through life. And here with me is Graham Kerr, a man who's experienced many more lifetimes, from an English schoolboy to a globally renowned TV chef to a vegetable gardening disciple.
I like the last speech very much.
What is tea at 3?
Well, I normally have tea at 3, a cup of tea at 3, and I just thought it would be nice on a Sunday afternoon if you and I could share a cup of tea and have a quick chat about things that are on our minds.
This program will be a conversation between the two of us from our different generational perspectives.
There's 60 years that separate us in terms of life. And I am just fascinated to know how you look into the future and how I look into the future. And I thought if we were to have a conversation about our different perspectives, not where we think the world should be going, we're not so expert that anybody should tune in to listen to what we have to say about the future. But it's really the wrestling with what I think about the future. And I so want to know what you think about the future.
Hello, Graham.
Hello.
And welcome back, everyone, to Tea at 3. Here we are. Last week, we talked about taking some time to kind of pull off to the side of the road and enjoy the view of life, to rest and rejuvenate your soul, however you want to do that. So that's what we've been thinking about. And here we are back to talk about it.
Faith, what I've been doing is I thought I'll see what it looks like now, because now is not a bit how I think it's going to be, but I think it might be how it may be for even a year. Yeah, I know it sounds too much, and I know politicians tell us 1st of May, 15th of May, 1st of June, keep on kicking the can down the road. But the truth of the matter is, this seems like it's going to take quite a bit of time to get back to normal. And therefore, if we're practicing this business of being indoors all the time, my journey, in fact, during this week has been to try and imagine that I'm driving and getting out at specific times, although I don't change my environment. And I'm just like at lunchtime or in the afternoon sometimes. And I started to try and work it out as being a kind of thing that I would do at 3 o'clock and they do again, at 7. And that's so legalistic and that's so typical of me. But I'm not living in a monastery. I don't have to go with a bunch of other guys and start singing. I just needed to get out of my car. And that seemed like get out of my immediate life and sit down in a chair and shut my eyes and say, Father, it's me. I know he knows it's me, but that's what I was doing. Father, it's me. Is there anything you want to tell me? Anything you want to tell me? Anything? And that was my attitude. And my mind is full of ideas. That's a problem for me. But gradually, over the week, I started to think that he might be wanting to say something. And I have my book here. I made notes of it in the end. I thought if I'm going to stop and get something to understand, then I need to write it down. That was an idea that I had. What happened to you? How did you try and ponder this?
I'm not a very patient person, and I don't often let very many lulls into my day. I usually fill it up with as many things as I can in order to keep my mind going and not dwell on anxiety or what's going on in the world. But I think something that was very helpful to me throughout this week was having my desk has a window right next to it, and having a tree right outside my window to just remember to look off and pause and have peace and experience nature and hear the birds sing and see the rain pour and watch the wind blow.
Yeah.
There was a crazy storm here yesterday, and it just, watching the tree bend so much farther than it seems like it should be able to go without breaking is always such a miracle to me, that it can just snap right back and be fine and still have all those bright green buds on it. Now I'm getting off topic. But
No, you're not at all. Okay, would you see yourself in the same way? I mean, you know, even though this wind is blowing really strong, whole virus issue, and all bending with that as it goes, but it comes back up, right? Is this the resilience that you're sensing?
I hope so. I'm hopeful that not only I, but everyone around the world will be able to bounce back in health and in just moving forward with life and happiness.
Yes. This bounce back business, what does that mean to you? What would bouncing back mean to you?
Personally?
Yes.
I find myself very sedentary during this time, which I don't know if is, entirely necessary. It's hard to, since I'm not very self-motivated, it's hard to go out and be active and stay like physically healthy without the encouragement of other people. And since I can't at this time do that with other people, I'm not outside very much at all. I'm anxious to return to a time in community with others. In the real world.
Good. For me, it's hugely different because I've always got my hands on the wheel. I'm spinning along forever. I get up in the morning and I start driving, and I stop driving at night, get out of my car. And I just don't have those viewpoints anymore. And what's worse for me at the present moment, I feel, is listening to everybody else's viewpoints of view. And that's what every pundit, every expert that I watch on BBC News, World Service, and things like that, they all have a very cogent, very point-orientated presentation that they make, and they talk about a future and how it's going to be different and everything else. And it's just going over my head because it's not meeting where I'm thinking that I'm going to myself. And I really want to know where you think you're going to and where I'm going to. So at the moment, what I know about you is that it seems like the idea of taking some time just by reflecting on the tree outside your window has given you a waypoint, a place of rest for you, and it feels good. Right? And that's what I'm doing too. I'm feeling, as I open my journal here and get my pen out and say, is there anything you want to say to me? And I so want to be able to have a personal relationship with God because I think he has a very personal interest in me. I'm perfectly sure that if I look back over my 86 years, that he has loved me so consistently over all of that time. I've got this real sense of this enormously powerful, yet tremendously intimate God is going to just wrap love around me in the biggest hug that I have ever had. That's how it feels. And so to some extent, it feels a bit like that when I'm taking time to get out of my car during the day. I just sit there and wait to be hugged. And I've got a feeling that if we start loving him like that and because he loves us like that, and we're just loving him back. That if we keep doing it that way, we keep turning up. Life's somehow going to get, it's going to get better because I'm going to be overflowing a bit more in that kind of love. So anyway, so I've got another idea for us to ponder for the week ahead of us. Let's go back to the same drive over the mountains. And I promise you we'll get off the mountains after that. Let's say there's been a rock fall. We know that there's signs up there, beware of falling rocks. And I've always had this sneaky feeling, I have it when I'm crossing bridges as well. What if today is the day there's an earthquake and the bridge falls, and I'm on it at the time. I'm so relieved every time I get off the other end of the bridge, and it hasn't done that. So, but what about a nice big rock and it falls on the road, and let's say it hasn't crushed anybody? But I can't get past. I'm held up. And we know that happens on I-90 from time to time. And so you just then have to wait until somebody comes to clear it. Well, at the moment, we've got a virus which is in our way, and it stopped us from driving. So how do we respond to that? And my idea has been, again, I'm such a physical, visual person. So I get out of my car, I walk over to where this rock is, and I find a space between the precipice and the rock, which is on the roadway here. And then there's another precipice here. And say, here's the big rock. And I get between the rock and the precipice behind me, put my back up against the precipice, put my feet up against the rock, and as though I was going to push it off the edge myself, which of course I can't do. It's enormous, and I can't. So, but at least I can put my feet up there and assume the attitude. I'm now going to wait for God to move that obstacle. Father, I believe that you can move that obstacle, is the way that I think I would put it. And I'm going to sit here with my feet up against it until it goes. In other words, I can't do it. You can do it. But at least I can be in agreement with you that it needs to go. So I'm putting my feet up against the virus, and I can't deal with that. I can't eliminate it. It's alive and well, but God can do that. That's something that I believe that he can do for us. And I'm prayerfully part of that process by putting my feet up against it and believing that it's going to be cleared. Then I can get back on with my life again. Does it? Now, that's the idea that I want to talk about. I just think that I'm part of a solution to something which is a worldwide problem at the present moment. And that I guess what I'm saying is it's assuming an attitude of prayer or an attitude of agreement with God, whatever you call it. I'm part of the solution by actually waiting for it to be dislodged. That's the idea. That's one. Can you ponder that for the week, and then you bring us back and you host us now? I am so very grateful for you.
Yeah, it's very interesting to say I-90 being closed specifically, considering I'm in Spokane and you're in Seattle, and that being an actual physical barrier between us. Yeah. And like all my family's over in Seattle as well. So this virus is actually blocking me from being able to go over I-90 to see them.
Yeah.
It's a very real metaphor for me at the moment. So again. Good.
Well, let's ponder it. And home once again, Faith and I am not here to tell you how to walk your walk. That's so far away. But we'd love you to perhaps join us in asking as we ponder.
Yeah, and in order to keep everyone watching a little bit more in this with us, if you would like, please go ahead and leave a comment below, and I'll make sure to try and include those in our conversation. We'll be thinking about that this week. Thank you for watching Tea at 3. We'll be back next week where we'll talk about this idea and everything that we've thought about it throughout the week. And then next week, I will be presenting an idea for us to think about, and then we'll contemplate that, and the cycle continues. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye, Graham.
Bye-bye, dear. God bless. So be safe.